Juliet, hello, how are you?
Christy Lee, I'm well. How are you going?
I am fabulous, thank you. We've got a little follow-up episode today from our most recent episode where we were chatting about introverts, extroverts and ambiverts and why we need to understand these things. And we're going to go a little deeper into psychometric assessments and how we use them in our workplace. What's your experience with using these tools?
Yeah, I love them. I was first introduced to them when I started working with a consulting firm just after I finished my master's, and they actually had an in-house tool that they had developed, which was ironic because they were an engineering consulting firm and they didn't do a lot of people work, but there you go, they had this tool, and I found it fascinating. And I loved that you answer these questions and it tells you a whole lot of stuff about yourself that has never been articulated before. And that's what I really enjoyed. So I've worked with a number over the years, and I now, as part of my leadership mastermind, we always do use a psychometric tool to start with, because to me, self-awareness is where it all starts. So whenever I'm doing a leadership program or working with teams or whatever, that's my number one go-to really, is start that, and that starts a conversation. But I also find in teams, it helps develop a common language.
Absolutely, yes.
So it really helps a team coalesce around something and start to understand one another. And I love when you're working with a team and you talk about the tool and you talk about, you go through their profiles and people just go, oh, that's completely you. Yes, but it never occurred to them to think about it in that way before.
Yeah.
And I was saying in the last episode, most people don't get out of bed in the morning wanting to be annoying, but it happens.
Yeah.
And I think this is the stuff we can help people with when they just go, oh, I get it now. You just work completely differently to me or think differently to
me. Yeah.
Have you used, do you enjoy psychometric tools? Because you've got a psych background, so you're coming at it from a more technical perspective, I think.
Oh, yeah. I love them. I'm like obsessed. I will do every one I can get my hands on.
Right, yes.
And what I love most is, and this is the key, when you're answering the questions, and I think early, in my career, I probably always tried to answer them as I thought I should answer them. The key is, and you've got to let your staff know this, you have to answer them with complete and total honesty. There is no right or wrong answer.
Yes.
And when you do that and you read the profile, it's so familiar and it's so, yes, that's me. And you're right, they articulate things in a way that you probably couldn't put the words on yourself.
Yes.
And it's so beneficial in terms of building self-awareness, but also then understanding where that's come from, and how that forms part of things. And look, we do change over time as well. So the psychometric assessments I would have done in my 20s, I would get a very different result now, because so things can change, definitely. But yeah, I love them and I do them all the time. And yes. I don't have a favorite right now, but when I'm suggesting them to businesses, I say just pick one that you like the look of and it resonates with you, and run with it, because you need consistency. So whatever tool you're going to use, pick one that you either do a few on for yourself, and then pick the one where you like the report and the information that it gives you, because they all give you slightly different things. And you're right, it creates dialogue and language within a team that's so powerful in creating this sense of belonging, which is what everyone craves at work. And they can call each other on it as well. Like, I'll have clients that love the DISC profile and will call me and say, I need someone for this role. They have to be a high D or high I, or they'll give me the DISC profile of the person. I'm like, righto, well, we can't advertise for that, but let's work through that down the track. But they're so clear on what type of person they need for a role, because they've done this work. That it's actually really beneficial in helping them be clear about who they're hiring as well. So they're making great decisions.
I think that's really true. And what I see when I work with teams and we look at how a team might pan out using a tool. And sometimes you see a lot of similarity. When we talk about it, we talk about this issue about sort of recruiting in your likeness.
Yes.
Because without having that understanding, what happens is people come to interviews and you have a conversation with somebody and you really gel because you have similar preferences around things. And instead of hiring people for what you need, you hire them because you've really connected with them because they're very like you.
Yeah, and you don't want to hire a team of people like you because
No,
then
no.
they're not going to want to do the things that you also don't want to do.
Yeah.
And you need that mix. And there's actually a really good one for this kind of model. It's called the Working Genius Assessment.
Yeah.
It's by the Table Group.
Yeah.
And it's great because it's simple, so simple to do. It has 6 preferences. You're
Yep.
high on 2, low on 2, and 2 sit somewhere in the middle. And they're very clear that if you don't have all 6 on your team, in your leadership team, on your board, whatever group you're looking at, you will be not only not functioning well as a business, but you're probably leaving money on the table somewhere as well due to either things not getting done or no innovation and creativity. So tools like that can tell you where you've got gaps. And that's not the only one. That's just a simple one that comes to mind. But they point out the gaps because you don't want to hire a team of people like you.
I think that's exactly right. I do a lot with the team management profile, and it talks about the roles that you need in a high-performing team. Not that you need people in those roles, but they need to happen in some way.
Yeah.
And it lines up, your personal preferences against those. And I think this is interesting, this whole idea about identifying the gaps. And I think there's self-awareness there, but there's also that ability to look at the bigger picture of your team using something like this. And I agree, there's so many tools out there, and there's some on the internet that are free in some version or another. And there's some that need to be facilitated by somebody who's accredited. And then there's everything in between, really. So, and you're right, the Working Genius one is good. I think Clifton Strength is quite good.
That's quite very popular, Clifton Strength. I know some businesses that are using Colby, right? And they really love that assessment. There's the good old Myers-Briggs, which is still a good assessment. It's been around forever, but it's still strong.
What fascinates me with Myers-Briggs is that so often when I do something with a team and I'll say, has anybody done one of these sorts of things before? People go, oh yeah, I've done Myers-Briggs. You go, oh great, so what's your profile? They go, oh, I don't know, I was a something.
Too many letters to remember in Myers-Briggs.
I know, it's so funny. They forget, which to me means they're not using it.
Absolutely.
And that's what I say, if you're going to do this, don't do it, take it home and put it on the shelf, or file it in your computer somewhere and never look at it again. The whole power of doing these things is that when you're struggling in some way, or when you're, as you say, when you're recruiting, that you take it out and have a little look at it.
Yeah.
Well, if you're struggling to connect with somebody, get your profile out and have a think about how are they communicating, how are they working, and where does that sit compared with you?
Yeah.
And so use it in that way, because I think that's the value of them, isn't it? When you actually use them.
You have to use them, yeah. And I used to do them with my team, and we would pull them out at every team planning day and just have them there as reference to say, well, that project's not for that person because they're going to hate that. That's not in their wheelhouse of their preferences in working. Well, we might have missed that if we really didn't have that detail in front of us. And I think this is why it's great to do a few yourself, because they all, give you a different style of report. And some of them are very visual, like DISC is one that I know has some very visual representation, and as do all the others. And you'll resonate with that. And you go, okay, that's something that I can stick into my head. And it's simple for me to remember what that means. And there's some really good industry or role specific ones as well, like sales style preferences and those kind of things. So you can niche down too.
That's very true. And I think particularly around sales, that's relevant because you need a level of self-awareness to connect with other people. I think without that, you're really, as you say, you're going to leave money on the table because you're just not going to connect in the same way. So I think that is really important.
Yeah.
I also think, I know some of them talk about how we engage in conflict. And I think the important thing to consider, because what we know is our preferences, whatever our preferences are, pressure, they get heightened.
Yes.
And so understanding them is really important. Understanding what that high state looks like, I think, is also really important. And thinking how we manage that. So I think there's some good tools that talk about that sort of how we deal with conflict, which is useful. Yeah,
definitely. And I think if you're a business and you're considering using a tool and you haven't done so before, I think my top tip would be get really clear about what you want to get out of using this tool.
yes.
Because if you are wanting to get this tool so that you make better hiring decisions, that might be one tool. If you want to get this tool to really understand your people and understand how you can best leverage their individual geniuses, that might be a whole other tool. So just be really clear about what you want to use it for, and get some advice from people who use these tools and aren't necessarily affiliated with anyone, but know how to use them, because it's really important that you get some of them. You are much better having interpreted by someone who is accredited and knowledgeable about running these kind of tools.
I think that's right. And I think, well, the more complex they are and the more nuanced they are, the more you need somebody to debrief it with you, I think. Yeah. To bring out some of that nuance. So the simpler tools don't require that. No. Because they just don't have that nuance. Yeah. But I agree, the more complex the tool is, and that means it's got more in it. Yes. And it's bringing more out in terms of how you work and communicate. Yeah, I think the more important it probably is to get somebody in to help interpret that. I think there's also so much value, and you know, you talked about creating a common language and doing something as a team, and I think that is just so important, you know, because it really brings the team together around things, you know, and those aha moments that they have around, oh, that's why you always are late for meetings, for instance. It's that sort of thing, isn't it? You know, where they start to understand everybody's strengths, and the things that just are never going to change about people. I think that has real value. Yeah,
I think that's the biggest value. You know, if I'm going to suggest to any business that they do these assessments, it's for that reason. It's so the team, so that you know your people, but so that the team know each other better. I don't think there's any value in doing this and you just keeping it to yourself. I think you know, you're just missing an opportunity there. And it's a great team bonding tool in so many ways.
Yeah, yes, it is interesting, isn't it? And often I go in to work with the senior team, and as soon as we do something with a psychometric tool and they get those insights and we talk about what that means for the senior team, almost inevitably they say, oh, we need to do this for everybody. Yeah. Because they get so much out of it and they can see the value in doing that. And I think there is so much value. Yeah.
And you can make it really fun. I mean, I remember doing a DISC assessment with a group. I can't remember what group it was, but there must have been 40 or 50 of us in the room. And, you know, the facilitator then had us get up and, you know, if you're an I, you went here, if you're a D, you went here. So everyone's moving around the room. You can make it very interactive and very engaging for the team to really get involved. And I just think what they can learn about each other really, really brings a team together. And it also allows you to say, look, you're really dipping into that characteristic right now. And it's an accountability measure in many ways.
Yeah, and that's interesting, isn't it? I also find, so when I work with the team management profile, for instance, well, it's very much, it asks questions about how you are at work, whereas some of them are whole of life questionnaires. Yes. So again, that's difference that you can look for depending on what you want the tool for. But I find even with that, people take it home and they show it to their partners or somebody in their family who knows and loves them. And even that gives them insights, because there'll be things they are sort of said, oh, that's sort of me. And somebody who knows them at home will go, that's completely you.
Yeah. Yes. That's exactly what you're like.
Exactly. And they get insights that they might not get from their teammates as well. So I think there's lots of value in sharing it with people who know and love you as well. Yeah. And having those conversations.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think if you're not doing these in your business, you absolutely should be. I just think they're so valuable, not only as a team exercise, but when you get new employees in, so everyone's on the same page. I just think they're tremendously valuable to use.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I agree with you. I think it probably doesn't matter what you use, just be consistent.
Yes. Yeah. So you've got a common reference point.
Yeah. And go with it. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Create that common language for your team.
Yeah.
I think it's also really motivating for people to do these things, you know. And I think I was working with a team last year, and a couple of people, when we used a psychometric tool, and I met with each of them individually, and we talked about it. And a couple of them said they were at a point where they'd actually been thinking about moving on, but in fact they'd re-engaged with the team and with their work because they felt somebody had invested in them.
Wow, that's really interesting.
In how they worked. Yeah, so it is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it has all sorts of fabulous benefits. So yes, go and find one you like.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to chat to us about which tools to use when, or get some input, jump over onto our Facebook page, Grow Your Influence. Give the page a like and pop a question there. We'll definitely jump in and answer that for you. So, or let us know what you're using and what you love. I know Enneagram's very popular at the moment. I haven't gone down that little rabbit hole yet, but let us know what you're using and what you love.
Yeah, that would be great. Perfect. Thank you, Christy Lee. Lovely to talk.
Love this conversation, Juliet. Thank you.
See you in a couple of weeks. Bye.